The ballroom of the annual charity gala sparkled with crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, and some of the most influential people in the city. At the center of it all stood Victoria Lawson, the CEO of a billion-dollar technology company and one of the most admired business leaders in the country. For years, magazines had speculated about her personal life. Why hadn't she remarried? Why did she reject every wealthy suitor who pursued her? Why did she seem completely uninterested in dating? The answer was simple. 5 years earlier, Victoria's husband had passed away unexpectedly, leaving her to raise their young son, Mason, alone. Since then, every decision she made revolved around him. And after countless attempts by friends and family to set her up with potential partners, Victoria finally made a declaration that became famous among those who knew her. "I'll only marry the man my son chooses." Most people assumed she was joking. She wasn't. Mason was 9 years old. Smart. Observant. And far more interested in character than status. If anyone was going to become part of their family, Victoria wanted Mason's approval first. Over the years, several successful businessmen tried impressing him. They bought expensive gifts, promised luxury vacations, showed off their wealth. None succeeded. Mason disliked almost all of them. Why? Victoria would ask. "They are trying too hard," Mason always replied. One Saturday afternoon, everything changed. Victoria was attending a community fundraiser organized for single-parent families. As a sponsor, she was expected to make a short speech before returning to her office. Mason accompanied her reluctantly. Charity events usually bored him. Halfway through the afternoon, while Victoria spoke with organizers, Mason wandered toward a soccer field where local families were participating in games and activities. That's when he met Ethan Brooks. Ethan was a widowed single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't famous. And he certainly wasn't trying to impress anyone. At that moment, he was simply helping a group of children repair a broken soccer goal. When one of the younger kids became upset after losing a game, Ethan sat beside him and spent 15 minutes encouraging him. When another child scraped a knee, Ethan found a first aid kit and helped clean the injury. When someone needed help carrying equipment, Ethan volunteered immediately. Mason watched everything. For nearly an hour. Without Ethan ever realizing it. Later, Ethan and Emma sat on a bench sharing sandwiches. Mason walked over. "Can I sit here?" "Of course," Ethan replied. The conversation started awkwardly but quickly became natural. They talked about soccer, school, favorite movies, parenting. Well, mostly Ethan and Emma talked about parenting while Mason listened and laughed. For the first time in years, Mason felt completely comfortable around an adult who wasn't trying to impress him. As the fundraiser came to an end, Victoria finally located her son. "Mason, we need to go." The boy nodded. Then something unexpected happened. He walked directly toward Ethan, took his hand, and led him back toward his mother. The crowd nearby noticed immediately. Victoria looked confused. "Mason." The boy looked up at her with complete seriousness. Then, in front of dozens of people, he said the words that left the entire fundraiser speechless. "Mom, I found him." Victoria frowned slightly. "Found who?" Mason tightened his grip on Ethan's hand. "The man you're supposed to marry." The silence that followed was so complete that even Ethan nearly forgot how to breathe. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Victoria stared at her son. Then at Ethan. Then back at her son again. "Mason," she said carefully, "we've talked about this." "I know." The boy's expression remained completely serious. "That's why I'm telling you." Around them, parents, volunteers, and event organizers struggled to hide their smiles. Ethan looked as though he wanted the ground to open beneath him. "Buddy," he said gently, "I don't think your mom expected this today." Mason nodded. "I didn't either." That answer only made the situation more awkward. And somehow more sincere. Victoria felt her face warming. As CEO of a billion-dollar company, she regularly negotiated complex deals in front of thousands of people. Yet nothing had prepared her for her son trying to arrange her future in the middle of a charity event. Why him, she finally asked. Mason didn't hesitate. Because he helped people when nobody was watching. The crowd grew quiet again. The boy pointed toward the soccer field. I watched him all afternoon. Then toward Emma. He's a good dad. Then back at Ethan. And he talks to kids like we're real people. The simple honesty of the answer struck everyone who heard it. Including Victoria. Because she had spent years meeting men who tried to impress her with achievements, wealth, and influence. Not one of them had earned Mason's respect. Yet Ethan had done it without even trying. The fundraiser ended soon afterward. Victoria apologized to Ethan for the unexpected situation. To her surprise, he laughed. Honestly, it's one of the strangest introductions I've ever had. That made her laugh too. For the first time that afternoon, the awkwardness began to fade. A week later, Victoria received a message from the event organizers. They were planning another family activity and wondered if she would attend. Before she could answer, Mason looked over her shoulder. Is Ethan going? Victoria raised an eyebrow. Mason. What? When she finally attended the event, Ethan and Emma were there. So were dozens of other families. This time, nobody tried to play matchmaker. At least not openly. Instead, Victoria and Ethan spent several hours talking. About parenting. About balancing work and family. About losing spouses and rebuilding life afterward. The conversation felt easy.